Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. In this video we're going to take a closer look at the Knit Panda Bear Snuggle Sack. Now this is the child's size version, and I had to crop his little ears off because we have hit the limit of my backdrop. But he has black ears up there, which you'll be able to see in the picture in a minute. And he is knit out of Bernat Blanket and Bernat Blanket Brights. Now you will need the yarn as specified in the pattern, and of course the pattern, and there you can see the little black ears on the picture. And you will also need knitting needles size US 11 or 8mm or size needed to obtain gauge. Now I'm going to shoot on 13s because I think it's easier for you to see my stitching, and I want to show you some of the decreases and increases that we're going to use to make our little friend here. And then I also recommend, while you're out hunting tapestry needles, that you look for one with an extra large eye, because the Bernat Blanket yarn is very thick and you're going to need a tapestry needle to sew the pieces into place once they're all made, and we're going to talk about that later on in the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to make one of the add-on pieces so that I can demonstrate some of these increases that you may not be familiar with. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to do just a couple of rows of the feet. And the reason I am using the light color instead of the dark color is I think it's really difficult to see black when I am demonstrating on camera. So when you're making the feet, of course, they'll be black, not white, but I'm using the white because it's easier for you to see. So let's take a look at the feet. With B, well, of course I'm not using B, cast on 4 stitches, and the first row is simply a knit row. All right, second row, purl 1, make 1 purlwise and 1 P. That is an increase you may not be familiar with. Purl 2, make 1 purlwise, purl 1. So we're going to purl 1. To make 1 purlwise, we're going to grab the horizontal loop between the 2 stitches in the row below and place it on the left-hand needle, and then purl. There's no twisting. When we do make 1 knitwise, there's some twisting going on, and we're going to do that in a minute. But for the purl, there is none. So that was our make 1 purlwise, then purl 2, make 1 purlwise. Once again, I'm going to find the horizontal loop, horizontal bar between the 2 stitches in the row that's already knit, and I'm going to put it on the left-hand needle, and then I'm going to purl. And then the last stitch is a purl 1, and we will have 6 stitches. That's the end of the second row. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, moving on to the third row, here's a different kind of increase. That is a KFB, which is a knit 1 front and back. So I'm going to knit in the front of the stitch, and I'm not going to push it off the left-hand needle. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to knit in the back leg of the same stitch, and then I'm going to push it off the left-hand needle. So I had 1 stitch, and now it's 2. Now it's knit to last stitch, and then on the last stitch it's KFB again. So knit front and back, knit in the front, do not push the stitch off the left-hand needle, knit in the back of the same stitch, and then you push it off of the left-hand needle and finish the stitch. That's the end of the third row. We should have 8 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8. Fourth row is a purl. So we'll just purl across. And then the 5th row is the same as the 3rd row, which is knit front and back, knit to last stitch, knit front and back. And the 6th row is a purl. So you would have 10 stitches. I'm not going to knit those rows because I want to move on to the decrease. Once you have your 10 stitches, you're going to repeat the last 2 rows 3 times more. You'll have 16 stitches, and then you're going to work 10 rows even in stocking stitch. But you know how to do this now, so I don't feel like I need to show you every single row. So let's take a look at the decrease row. 2, 4, 6, 8. I only have 8 stitches. You of course will have more. So the first thing we're going to do is SSK, which is slip one, slip a second one, and knit them together through the back loop. That is an SSK, and it is a left leaning decrease. Then it's going to say knit to the last 2 stitches and knit 2 together. And that will be a right leaning decrease, a knit 2 together, in which I'm simply going to put the right hand needle through both stitches at the same time, yarn over, pull through both stitches and push them off the left hand needle. And so now I'm down to 6 stitches, 2, 4, 6. So let's show that one more time. So remember how I was talking about a left leaning and a right leaning decrease? There's my left leaning decrease, and you can see it angles in this way. And here is my right leaning decrease, the knit 2 together, and you can see it angles in this way. It's just to keep things neat. So the second row is purl. And then you're going to just repeat the first and second row the number of times that the pattern specifies. But let's take a look at that one more time. We're going to start with an SSK, which is slip, slip, knit 2 together through the back loop, knit across until 2 stitches remain. Remember, your rows will be much longer than mine. And on the last 2 stitches, I'm going to knit 2 together. Once again, you can see how they're angling towards each other, and that's exactly what we want. Now, once again, without the right number of stitches, I want to just show you the Purl 2 Together, which will happen at near the end. And so the Purl 2 Together is very simple. It's just like it sounds. Insert your right needle through both stitches at the same time and Purl 2 Together. Let me show you that one more time. Through both stitches at the same time, yarn over, pull through everything, and Purl 2 Together. So those are most of the increases and decreases that you will need to get through making all the parts of our Knit Panda Bear Snuggle Sack. 2 more decreases that I want to go over, both of which are worked on the purl side. At the end of the nose, you will see a direction that says slip 1 purlwise, Purl 2 Together, PSSO, which stands for Pass Slipped Stitch Over. So let's do that real quick. I'm just going to purl 2 stitches to get in the middle of the row because it's easier to demonstrate there. Okay, slip 1 purlwise, Purl 2 Together, PSSO, slip, pass slipped stitch, which is sort of that second one from the point on the right hand needle, over the purled stitch. All right, let's do that one more time. Slip 1 purlwise, Purl 2 Together, pass slipped stitch over purled stitch, PSSO. That's a double decrease. Now, I'm going to undo this real quick. The last decrease I want to show you that is also worked on the purl side comes up at the end of the ears, and that is Purl 2 Together through back loop. So instead of going through the front loop to Purl 2 Together like you normally would, you're going to Purl 2 Together through the back loop. I like to twist my left hand needle a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm purling 2 together through the back loop. All right, and those are the increases and decreases that you need to know to make all of the parts. So you're going to make all the parts of our little panda friend, and then you're going to do some assembly at the end. So let's take a look about how to do that assembly. Now let's take a look at sewing the smaller parts onto the large parts of the snuggle sack. Now, one thing that I would do when I was making pieces like the eyes or the feet or the nose, when I end off the piece, I would leave a nice long tail at the end, because that way I have enough yarn to do the sewing at the end without having to attach another piece, which saves me some weaving in of ends and some knots. The other thing, and I mentioned this at the beginning, but you need to find a tapestry needle with a very large eye. Blanket is a thick yarn, and you want to make sure that the yarn passes easily through the eye of the needle. And the next thing you may need is some straight pins. Now these are quilter's pins that have the ball head on them. I like them because they're long. Once again, the fabric is very dense and we need a lot of length on the pin to pin it into place. So lay your piece flat, pin, 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 pin. Put all the pins on there that you can think of. It's not a big deal. You can take them out at the end. And then get your tail yarn onto that tapestry needle. Now, whip stitching these pieces together is more of an art than a science. I want to make sure that I have the piece exactly where I want it to be. And to do that, I'm going to double check against the diagram here. That'll help me know where to put things. So what I would like to do is try and get under more than one loop at a time, because I do not want to pull everything out of shape. Let's see. I know it's hard to see because of the black, but if you can see, I'm trying to go under 2 loops of the cream and then 2 loops of the black. And this is just for durability's sake, particularly for this one, because this is the children's size. The odds are it's going to get a lot of wear. And so I want to make sure that everything stays sturdy. Particularly, you're going to wash it. Kids are going to take it camping or to a sleepover or in the back of your van. So I want it to be snug. I want it to be uptight against the fabric of the sack itself, but I don't want to pull it so tight that it pulls out of shape. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm going under 2 strands and then under 2 strands of the black. And then I'm pulling it slowly through, tightening it up, because you can see I want it snug, but I don't want anything pulling. All right, let's see, under 2, and I'm going to go all the way around. Keep checking to make sure it's laying flat, and of course make sure that you can see I have my hand between the 2 layers of the sack. I want to make sure that I'm not sewing it all the way through, because then nobody can get their feet in it. Now, the instructions tell you to sew the front and the back of the sack together before you do the finishing, but it would be okay for the face parts, like the eyes and the nose and the bamboo shoot. It would be okay to sew those on before you sew the front and the back together, if in fact you have completed all the knitting in that order. If you haven't, do what I just said though, and make sure that you're only sewing through the top of the sack and not sewing through both layers. And you also want to avoid things like this. Try not to put a stitch where another stitch already is, because you don't want a big gaping hole. Now when you get all the way around and you have gone back to the very beginning, go back and make sure everything is flat and you have tightened things up. Then do like a little overhand knot, and then you can slide the needle up between the layers, going through the stitches if you want, as if you were weaving in an end. Pop it out the side and trim it, and then it is all neat. So thank you so much for joining us here on Yarnspirations.com. I hope you have a great time making our little panda friend here, and I know whoever the recipient is, they're going to be very happy to have him. We'll see you again soon.